pleasant good afternoon to all of you here in the Caribbean. Good night to you all in the UK and in India, in Sri Lanka, and in other parts of the world, whether it be morning, whether it be evening or afternoon. A pleasant good day to you as we join you from Clarendon in Jamaica as we look to review day one of the second test between the West Indies and England there in the UK. We'll also take a look back at the first test. As you would know, we were hit by a terrible hurricane and therefore we lost power, water, and every essential thing that has to do with life. But nevertheless, we are recovering and it is slow, but the recovery process has started, and it's an honor for us to be able to join you again as we review the West Indies and England first test, and also we will review day one of the second test between the West Indies and England. England having lost the toss and asked to bat first, amount over 400 plus runs. They were all out just 2 balls before the close of play, just about half an hour ago. And the West Indies openers of Craig Brathwaite and Michaela Louis will return tomorrow morning, 10:15 a.m. UK time, 5 a.m. Caribbean time, 6 a.m. United States time, to resume the second test match. And we will certainly hope that the West Indies will put in a very, very good batting performance. I have alongside me Hall of Famer and fellow journalist, Mr. John Melbourne. We also have with us from Southern California, Mr. Dennis Eat, recently nominated to be selected as a Cricket Hall of Famer in the Cricket Hall of Fame, and he is with us today. We will have the Honorary Secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame, Mr. Dale Brown, joining us later on, and we are glad to be back again. Mr. Melbourne, your opening thoughts as we resume coverage of West Indies cricket.
Once again, a very good afternoon to our listeners here in the New York, US area, and a good morning and a good evening wherever you are listening to us here on the West Indies Development Cricket Academy channel. Certainly a pleasure being back after Beryl kind of ran through Jamaica. Fortunately, there was damage in some areas, but some people got, I guess, a little bit lucky, Junior, that they didn't have a lot of damage. But it could be worse. Day one of the West Indies England Test match at Trent Bridge. The team was announced yesterday to be the same team that played the first test, but then I understand that Gudakesh Moti that must not have been feeling well, and so he was replaced in the 11 this morning by Kevin Sinclair, an all-rounder off spinner. It's a good and bad day for West Indies. Let's deal with the bad. The ground fielding was terrible, and they leaked a lot of runs that probably they should not have leaked. Misfielding, dropped a couple of catches, and De Silva missed a stumping late in the afternoon. I don't know how wicketkeeper can miss us. I think he thought the player had played the ball, and so he didn't stump. And then he realized that, oh, let me stump. His foot is out of the line. But England went on to make 416 runs, of course. It's a lot of runs. And in any kind of cricket, when runs are on the board, the team coming into bat next seem to have problems adjusting or I guess they figure they have to make these runs and they lose their wickets cheaply. However, we'll see how West Indies play tomorrow. I am hoping that at least our top order can get some runs in terms of Craig Bradfield, Michael Louis, Kirk McKenzie, Alec Athanaze, that group, that they can really put that should I say, or the left or the right foot forward and get really consolidate throughout the day, not get bowled out in the second day. I think if they are able to go through that day tomorrow, maybe losing 3 or 4 wickets, it will do a lot for their confidence. But as I said, I was not at all happy with the ground fielding, and they have to improve on that if they intend to at least draw this second test at Trent Bridge. Thank you so much, Junior.
Thank you as well, Mr. Melbourne. Mr. Eat, is it too early to be talking about a draw? The West Indies haven't really batted yet, and despite of the lackluster performance in the first test based on the retirement of the now England recently appointed coach James Anderson, there was a lot of build up towards that off and on the field, and our team might have been distracted, and that some analysts are saying contributed to the difficulties that we face where batting is concerned in the first test. So looking ahead now with the guys having a week to rest and regroup, are we now entering into a mindset that we're saying that we can't beat England and we must settle for a draw? Do you share such a view?
Well, good afternoon to you, Mr. Codlin and John, and of course, listeners and viewers wherever they are in the world. We're very happy that you've been able to join us again, and we thank you for spending some time with us. Now, in terms of the West Indies mindset in this particular match, like in all matches they face, it should not be a question of we're going out there to beat them. It should be a question of we're going to focus on the process of how to beat them, which means then that you don't focus on the goal, but you focus on how you're going to get there. And I think that for West Indies to take England on in this particular series, they need to go out there tomorrow and for the next 2 days occupy the crease. There is no two ways about it. You cannot be bowled out in 1 day tomorrow as England was today, because if the West Indies get bowled out by the end of tomorrow, that certainly spells a very, very difficult match for them to draw, let alone win. But if they can bat for 2 days, that means that all the batters now will have to step up, focus, concentrate, and occupy the crease. Not so much pushing for runs, but pushing to occupy the crease. The situation is that they are woefully out of practice, and occupying the crease is the beginning of getting back match practice. And they have to look ahead because there is a third test match coming up after this one. So they need to be able to get their ground footing set so that come the Headingley match, they are able to arrive prepared then to take that particular match and save the series.
Absolutely. With the team performing the way that it did as we intertwine the first test along with the first day of this second test. In the first test, as we look on it from afar, um, are you concerned now, Mr. Melbourne, about Shamar Joseph? Because we have seen the difficulties that he faced in the first test, and then he went off the field 2 times today with something that, of hamstring injury, something to that sort, and suffering with cramps. And with us missing the services of Kimar Roach at the moment, between the spinners, Old Trafford have been a pitch that is not really conducive to spin bowling, but we have seen that the spinners would have bowled some 32 overs today. And why that had happened was because of the injury of Shemar Joseph. Are you concerned about the young man and the difficulties that he's developing so early in his career, and at a time that we really need him to come true for us in these tests against England? Your thoughts and respond to the issues with Shamar Joseph.
If it's a hamstring injury that he's carrying from that first test, I would not have played him in the second test. And I was kind of surprised that he was named to play in the second test. So leaving the field because of that injury today does not surprise me. A hamstring injury takes time to heal. And from my little knowledge track and field, and speaking to a therapist some time ago on one of my programs, he talked about getting is it a blood clot or whatever it is, stretched out or something like that, to that effect, for the hamstring to heal properly. So as I said, I was surprised that he was on the field for the second test. It's only a couple of days away from the first test, and a hamstring injury or even a cramp does not take 4 or 5 days to heal. He needs more time. So I would not have gone into this second test with Shamar Joseph. Of course, and because I am looking also long term, the short term, okay, I lose this match, but in the long term, can he help me to win matches in the future? And that's how I would view that situation. And it's so interesting you talk about the spinners, Junior. During the English innings, I texted a couple of my fellow Hall of Famers and asked the question, should Craig Brathwaite bring himself on and bowl a few overs if he can, since Kevin Sinclair was doing so well, I think maybe another spinner would help to do the trick. Well, he didn't bring himself on, of course. It was good to see the youngster bowling so well in this test match. And I don't know how England now will respond, because depending on what kind of score West Indies make in their first innings, they'll probably have to bat also in the fourth inning. And West Indies don't do well to spin. They have Joe Root and whoever else can bowl some spin. So, hopefully we can force England to bat a second time and see where it goes on day 5.
Absolutely. Mr. Eat, West Indies batting in the first innings in this second test could really be what shapes this test match in your view.
Yes, yes, that is so. Because, as John pointed out, the West Indies likely to be facing spin. I heard just at the end, the commentators at that match was simply pointing out that they note that the spinners today were effective, and they were licking their chops, saying that Bashir for England, when we know how much damage he did when he played for England in India recently, that he is likely to be available to take on the West Indies on day 2 and 3, and of course, even day 4. So this is why I feel strongly that West Indies mindset going into this innings is that they have to go out there to occupy the crease and put everything else aside. Don't worry about being defeated, but worry about occupying the crease and getting the necessary practice, because that is an essential element of being able to get a result in their favor, which might well be the draw. But if they are successful in doing this correctly, they could well be looking at a victory, an outside chance of a victory. But going back to something that John Melbourne mentioned earlier, Shamar Joseph, he displayed the same type of injury in the first test match. So, like John, I'm surprised that it did not occur to the coaches and trainers that maybe he needed a little more time to rest. And you ask yourself, why is Joseph in this position? Well, after the test match injuries that he had in Australia, where he did so well, he came off that and took some time off to recover from the injury. And not long after he recovered from the injury, he was at the IPL in India, where he basically sat around for almost a month and a half. Then he came back, went to the West Indies, and it was the same thing. He sat around in the West Indies squad for all the matches they played without getting a workout. So how can you ask a player who was injured in January to sit around for 6 months and not have the proper exercise, training, or even personal motivation? If the coaches aren't doing it, if the physios aren't doing it along with him, he needed to be doing something on his own. So situation right now suggests that he's brought things, or he has things happening to him which he could well have avoided had he spent the time along with the relevant coaches and trainers in getting himself match fit. This would have been a good opportunity to have brought in and promoted the other Louis brother in place of Shamar in this situation, because we know that he's knocking on the door, and we know that he did fairly well in the recently completed West Indies 4-day match. Now, going back to the spinners situation, today we saw Hodge perform magnificently with those wickets that he claimed and broke through. Now, in the first test match, we saw skipper Brathwaite bowled the quick bowlers for 36 straight overs without introducing spin bowlers. When he did, he introduced Gus Moti, but at the same time, he had a bowler of the caliber of Hodge, which he did not use in that match. Why? Brathwaite himself, we've seen him bowl before in test matches, and he also failed to take the ball back then. So clearly something is happening with skipper Brathwaite, match, dare I say, performance, match thinking, and what needs to be done. Very likely, now that we've seen Hodge, I hope that is a sign that we are going to be using him more frequently because West Indies need to develop their spin bowlers as well as their batting practices. So that's it for now on that matter, Mr. Codlin.
Does this comes down to leadership in the coaching, on the coaching side, the managing side, and also the captain himself that is working in the best interest of the team? There's undoubtedly, under Craig Brathwaite leadership, West Indies have gotten some good results, but from time to time we have seen in his captaincy a lot of deficiency. The way he uses his bowlers, the defensive fields that he set, the lack of proactiveness from Brathwaite, and notable now his lack of form. I mean, the other opener, Tejnarayan Chandapal, was dispensed after 10 tests because he batted the same way like the captain who's there now for some 40 odd test matches. So we wonder what is happening with our team as it regards to leadership. But Desmond Haynes, before he was shown the door, has started to rebuild this test team. The onus now is on Kirk Mackenzie and Alec Athenies to step up. And the youngster that just came showed promise in our 4-day championship. When you look here in England on these test matches, does the pitch, the flat, worn out pitch at Old Trafford, batting friendly pitch, does it create an opportunity now for the out of form captain and the youngsters that really want to make a name for themselves to step up? Because if West Indies is bowled out for under 200 runs, it could spell trouble for the regional team, and it could mean the next time we play England, we'll just get a mere 2 tests. Because if you see now, these guys, it was a full house at Old Trafford today. So the West Indies is still able.
Correction, Trent
Bridge, yeah.
Right. The West Indies is still able to pull the crowds. But with these lackluster performances, we wonder, will they be able to do that next time around there in England? So the question is, what is your expectation from the youngsters and the captain himself come tomorrow morning?
You know, I too have been questioning the leadership. First of all, I don't think Alzarri Joseph should have been the vice captain. I think the vice captain should have been Joshua De Silva as maybe the next senior member of the team. How Craig Brathwaite bats, it bothers me now that you have a 19, 20-year-old opening with him. Because how Craig bats, the youngster who is up a promising young batsman might think the bowling is difficult, when it probably isn't too difficult. Because Craig is not, trying to rotate the strike, trying to push the ball through the gaps. You don't have to be hitting fours, but finding the gaps and rotating the strike to kind of take the pressure off the youngster at the other end. So it concerns me how he bats. And yes, when young Tejnarayan Chandapal was there batting the same way, but I mean, sitting down in the wicket and not making runs don't make no sense. You need to be able to score runs. You don't have to be hitting fours and sixes, but you can get your ones and your twos by pushing the ball in the gaps. Now, that might also be easier said than done. But in terms of his captaincy too, I've been having some concerns about him. I always felt that he would have been the captain of the West Indies senior team, coming from an under 19 captaincy period. And I was surprised when they gave the captaincy to Jason Holder instead of Craig Brathwaite at that time. But maybe. But you see, Junior, the question, if not Craig Brathwaite, who in the team other than a Joshua De Silva could captain this West Indies team? I don't think you want to give it to Alzari Joseph.
But giving Joshua De Silva that is awfully out of form, the captaincy would be very, very suicidal at this time because he's on the brink of being dropped because for the last few tests he haven't even scored 40 runs. If you would look back on his stats, he has not gotten to 40 for the last 4 tests that he plays. So
Then
there's a
the
great
question
disparity there. And the
the
question
que-
you ask, if not Craig Brathwaite, then who? We believe that if they can take a bold step of removing Tej Narayan Chandapal and a few others out of that test team, then they should throw the captaincy to a bright and upcoming young man because the team can't perform any worse than it is performing now. What the team needs is great leadership, and Craig Brathwaite at this time is struggling. There's a young man that came in, and he came in to replace Muti, and we have gotten the press conference quite late, and so we'll only play the audio at this time, but later on we'll upload the video on the channel so you viewers can see it. But just listen to what he had to say, and then you respond to what he has to say, Mr. Melbourne, and then Mr. Heath will pick up. I'm not sure if the honorary secretary join us as yet, but we'll keep going until he does. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead, Brandon. All right, Kevin, is it clear, Brandon, for that here? Before the fight, how much are you looking forward to, going out there and scoring some runs? Good question, Brandon. For me, whenever I get a chance to do that, I just look to, be out there and allow look to score some runs for the team. But having said that, my life is yet to come, but I just want to remain focused and focus on our run game or whatever the team requires me to do. I just do it to the best of my ability. So, yeah, I'm just really focused in what I got to do when my chance comes. All right, well, thank you. Yeah. I think the skipper very much like Meridian was, in control of the decision we want to do. I think he was looking to put a little bit pressure on them and use something to get them more. I think we strike early and then, we let loose the pressure. That's something that we did not want it. So I think it was a good task to win. And I think we just did the best we can to do despite of now chances like I mentioned earlier. I didn't get that. No, not really. I don't think.
To, towards the final thing that he said there, I'm not sure if you all hear him correctly. Um, and we apologize for the poor audio. He said that they bowl out England again. First, they bowled them out for 371, and then now
Mm-hmm.
they bowled them out for 400 plus runs,
Mm-hmm.
taking 20 wickets for almost 800 runs. Your views on that, Mr. Melbourne, then Mr. Heath?
400 runs in one, there's a lot of runs. Um, for the West Indies. I think if it was Australia or India, you figure Australia or India could get 400 or maybe 300 and change. But um, I don't see the West Indies getting 300. They might get 200 and something now in this, unless they surprise me and get past 300. And sitting down in the wicket to try and kill time is not going to do it. They have to go out there with a positive mindset and and focus on scoring runs. As I say, you don't have to be hitting sixes and fours. It's a test match. You push the ball in the gaps, try and get it through the gaps, and stick your one and your twos. It will change the bowling mindset of the other team too. They will start to try to figure, well, how can we stop them from scoring runs? And as you get set in the wicket, I guess, and seeing the ball better, you then your innings will develop even further. But 400 runs on a first day, despite the fact that you have bowled out England, which is great, um, bowled them out for the second time, is good. Question is, how do you respond when you go to bat on day two?
Absolutely. Definitely. Definitely. Mr. Heath.
I, the gist of what I think I hear you saying is that Hodge was saying that they are
Not,
capable.
not Hodge, Kevin Sinclair.
Sinclair.
That they're West Indies capable of scoring 400 runs. Is that correct? I'm not sure that I heard that.
No, Sinclair was saying that he was maintaining to the journalists that was questioning him that they have bowled out England 2 times
Oh,
now.
okay, for under 400 or
The
thereabouts.
first was under 400, the other was above 400. But when you compile the two together, it's 20 wickets for 800 plus runs.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what he's getting at there. I'm sorry, that's gone over my head there.
Yeah.
But realistically, as I indicated earlier on, and as John has just said, the focus for the West Indies tomorrow is not to look at the scoreboard, but to go out there and figure out how am I going to occupy the crease and get the singles and let them add up so that they.
Mr. E, with Michaela Louis
Mhm.
and Alec Athens and Kirk McKenzie,
Mhm.
they themselves have put them together. You don't get 7 test match out of them.
Right.
How difficult will it be now for them to step up? And is it an indictment now that the leader, the captain of our team is all fully out of form? How can these three now, what are your expectations, and what can the people here in the Caribbean and the millions of fans that we have around the world, what can their expectation be tomorrow morning, bearing that these players are inexperienced and maybe, you know, can't handle what England will throw at us tomorrow?
Mr. C, these guys, they're cricketers, they're professional cricketers. So once they get out there, the expectation is that no task is going to be too difficult for them. The bowlers from England may be challenging, but if you're a workman of any quality, you should be able to handle that and not look at it that I have to score. They should not be saying I have to go out there and score 100. They should be going out there to say, I'm going to occupy the crease and turn over the strike with my partner. And the runs will come. This is the only way they can go out there and expect to put on a total that will ensure that at the end of day 4, they are not in a follow-on situation. Focus on the process of turning over the strike. England was scoring at the rate of 5 runs and over, which for me, seeing this in test matches, the rate is usually 2, 3 at the most. This today shows that it's almost doubled. And that's also a product of bad bowling and bad maybe fielding and captaincy. And in that regard, I have a question, and I'm happy to see Brother Dale with us, because I have a question that I'd like to put to you and see how you look at this. As I say, the bowlers, West Indian bowlers, they have a lack of success, they have a lack of penetration, and they are not very effective. You ask yourself, why? Is it caused by the lack of personal preparation by the players, personal training, or is it the pitch preparation? I do not see where pitch preparation is at fault. Simply put, a good and competent professional in any work industry will travel with his home area or outside his home area, and he will have tools, wrench, or drill bits required to do the job. So, where necessary, skilled professional knows how to prepare and fix a troubling problem. So the West Indian batters should be able to go with their tool, their bat, their skills, their mindset, and know how to fix the troubling problems that English bowlers will perform. If you look at, say, the Indian bowlers, Siraj or Bumrah, you watch them work in India, or they work abroad also. They get the job done, meaning they don't just run up. They have the ability to do things with the ball. And I don't see that with West Indian bowlers. Why are West Indian bowlers from the current crop unable to work effectively at home or abroad? I have heard it said in my group discussion elsewhere that West Indian professional cricketers do not need coaching. Is the problem coaching, or is it the player? Work experience or lack of work experience? What is the problem there with West Indian batters and bowlers, coaching and players? Gentlemen, I ask your indulgence.
Honorary Secretary, Mr. Brown, your response.
I think Dale is muted. But I think, okay, there he is.
Yes, greetings to everyone, and thank you for having me. Basically, the West Indies team is extremely inexperienced and underprepared to undertake a tour such as this. England is not a place where you go to and perform without some prior experience, unless you're a very special talent. And I will start, I don't know, unfortunately, what was discussed before, but when you look at mindful training and you look at mental preparation, which will lead to confidence and self-belief, those things will increase consistency. And how do we know someone is consistent? By the average amount of runs they make each time they go out, and the average amount of wickets they take each time they bowl. Not just the average amount of wickets, but at what cost. So the game, although we know, of course, it is played on the field, the outcome is decided by mental fortitude and mental preparation, along with the ability to adapt and adjust your mental capacity according to the dictates of the game that is being played, the conditions of the of the game, and to strategize. You cannot have your main bowler going at almost 7 runs per over. Whether it takes 3 or 4 wickets, that is not good.
Mm.
And I refer to Alzari Joseph.
The vice captain.
Yes, the vice captain. You cannot have him, and it is showing a lack of disciplined bowling. I saw Jaden Seals bowl a ball to Joe Root. Didn't get him out, but the very next ball was not great ball, but he got his wicket with it. But outside of those 2 good deliveries, the other 4 in the overs were run scoring deliveries. You cannot get any joy, and you should not take any joy out of bowling out a team in one day for 400 runs.
400 runs.
You are chasing a genie when you start thinking like that. And what I would like to see is these young men get trained how to answer questions. And it has to do with their mindset and their mental fortitude and mental training. Someone asks you a question, don't say you get pride out of taking 20 wickets in 88 overs, but the other team make 400 plus runs, and you get a joy out of that. That is unbelievable for me. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to see someone with what? I'm trying to make sure I'm not wrong. With 1 test plus the 1 test in England, with just in his second test match that he's ever played, being asked to make a comment on something like that. He's not senior enough, he's not experienced enough, and he shouldn't have. I would be happy if he has the know-how, but clearly he does not have the know-how to field a question such as that. Those are questions that you ask the captain, and perhaps he would give you the same answer. I don't know, because I heard him offer the same thing. So maybe the young man is mimicking his captain. But in my days, if I took 6 wickets for 240 runs, I wouldn't be happy.
Most definitely, because I thought Kevin Sinclair was, it was a foolish answer to be boasting that you bowl out an England team 2 times. But those 2 times, piling up those runs together, it's over 800 runs for those 20 wickets, and that's not good enough. Um, that's nothing to boast about. And I have to agree with you, Mr. Brown, that Sinclair may have gotten it wrong there. But to look on the other side of the coin, um, is growth in the game from the shorter format of the game now into the longer format of the game. And we know that Goody Kish Mooti is our number 1 spinner here in the region, but fell ill this morning. But how impressed are you that Kevin Sinclair rose to the occasion, Mr. Melbourne, and you know among the wickets, and was very economical in his 22 overs this morning against England?
Well, it's so interesting that both him and KBM Hodge, who I understand is more a batsman than a bowler,
both of them are.
Our pride is batting more than his bowling, that they came in and did a reasonably good job for the West Indies. when I see the game start and Jaden sees bowl 2 overs and give up 28 runs, I said, what the hell is this? I, I was figuring I'm going to have another long day of watching West Indies play. And yes, I had a long day because the England scored over 400 runs. They dropped Pope on 46 and 54, which, had they taken one of those catches, might have changed the picture a little bit. But to give up 400 runs in a test match in one day is a lot of runs. And you know, I I, I don't know if this. I don't know about the.
I'm not cutting you. Just stay on camera. This is what Nehemiah said here and in the comments. The cricket standard in the West Indies is so bad. We have to admit that first. 400 runs in one day says a lot about the bowling attack. It is just pure rubbish. Your response and continuation and your thoughts as it regards to this. I think the person in the comment here is spot on in you know agreeing with what you have to say.
If it's a name I am thinking about, is a good boy from Melbourne. But certainly, as I said, 400 runs is a lot of runs in a
Yes.
test match to give up in one day. And as I and our maybe it should not be Alzari Joseph who is opening the bowling. He probably should come on as first change or something like that. But Alzari Joseph, as a senior test cricketer or cricketer period, me as a captain cannot throw the ball to him and expect him to bowl well. He might produce the odd ball and get a wicket, and he winds up with maybe 2, 3, 4 wickets, but gives up a lot of runs. And being a senior fast bowler now, I should be able to throw the ball to Azar Joseph, and he makes whatever adjustments are necessary to limit the scoring of runs. We talk about mental preparation, mental fitness. When these youngsters look at 400 runs tomorrow when they come out to bat, what's going through their head? How can I get these runs? And I might not be looking at it positively, but in a negative way. That we have a mountain to climb here now.
Bearing that we were set 370 plus runs in the first test and never got to even 300 in both of the innings that we played.
300, you never get to 200.
Absolutely.
In first innings.
Yes, so you're spot on. You're spot on. You're spot on with what you said. If we were to lose this test match, Mr. Brown, and lose the final test, and Mr. Melbourne earlier asked if not Craig Brathwaite, then who? Over the period, the early 2000s, we have seen captaincy change from Lara to Walsh, and we have seen Shiv Chandapal came in. We have seen Chris Gale, Ramnaresh Sawan. The captaincy was taken from them and given back to them. Darren Sammy, Bravo to a short extent. Is it time now that we give Holder another look in, bearing that he's more experienced now, and he seems as if he's getting things right now. We know that he was a poor captain in the past, but in your estimation, would you now, because we have seen too often over the last year that Craig Brathwaite is lacking in his instinct as a captain, and under older, the West Indies had better returns under him as captain? And would you now take the bold decision and we would be the first analyst to have brought up older name again in captaincy? And I just want to know if you had an opportunity, um, and if you were to change the captain, if you would give it to older, bearing that Azari Joseph is awful in his cricket at this time. Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, sir. Well, first and foremost, panelists, I believe to have what was essentially a lame duck lead selector select this team, knowing full well that whatever ideas he had for the content for the development of West Indies cricket would take a detour once he demits office. And that is exactly what happened. I believe, given the timing of the tour, with all respect to Mr. Desmond Haynes, he should not have been allowed to lead the selection of this team. Because again, whatever his ideas are, whoever and however the succession comes about, they will not be continuing what he envisioned, whatever it is that he envisioned. So none of the players that are currently in this squad, with the exception of Holder, none of them are capable of leading this team. So if Holder is not available, now you are forced to go to someone like a Chase or a Shea Hope to lead the team. You have to bite that bullet and go to where you know you have someone who can serve you for at least 3 or 4 years, 3 to 5 years. You know, Hope is a little younger than Chase, I believe. So even just for 3 years to blood some of the younger players. But if you are going to ask Alzari Joseph, and I don't know why they appointed him vice captain, only because you look at the history of cricket, frontline bowlers, the stress plus the physical workload to a fast bowler to become captain of a team. Not that they can't do it, but you will burn them out in a minute. It's not a long-term, solution. Very few people have done it. Imran Khan comes to mind. He was an outstanding captain and a great fast bowler. But what made them so special is the fact that they were special. You cannot force speciality on anyone. And in terms of the development of West Indies cricket, sirs, I see where Mr. Lara speak about Carl Hooper and the special talent that he had. But Carl Hooper was an irresponsible batsman who was inconsistent. Yes, there was a period in his time when he became consistent, when responsibility was given to him. But your numbers, if you average 20 per inning, that's what you are going to do. Right now, we don't have anyone who averages over 30 in the test team that has played any amount of test matches. It's the captain alone that has a little average over that, and he is greatly inconsistent. So we have to be realistic. It's not about who looks pretty and who can play 2 nice drives. The English bowlers are going to pressure you. They are going to mount the pressure. And if you don't, I've heard it said earlier, if you don't rotate the strike and take that pressure off of you, they are going to pin you down and induce errors easily. You notice Althanias, he made 20 yard both times, but he faced almost 100 balls to make just about 40 runs. So he can't score freely. And the length of time it takes him to make the 20 yard, he really should be on 40 yard, 50.
Yeah.
So we battle down ourselves.
Mr. Melbourne, your friend Nehemiah said again that I think that giving Holder the captaincy will make. I don't think that giving Holder the captaincy will make a difference. You can clearly see that these players don't have the skill So changing captaincy will not do it. In my opinion, you can take a toss on the captaincy. Spin the dice. Mr. E, spin the dice.
Well, speaking of captaincy, I would go with Brother Dale's suggestion. I think that what we should be looking at is to elevate Shy Hope to the captaincy and remove Brathwaite. And as far as vice captaincy being Alzari Joseph, I've noted that Alzari's bowling, since he was elevated to the role of vice captaincy, has deteriorated a great deal. I'm not sure if it's the responsibility that he's thinking of which detracts from his performance. But ever since he was elevated to the ranks of vice captaincy, his bowling performance has deteriorated. So for that reason, I think he's too young, too early, and not experienced enough to lead the team as a captain. So I would certainly not have him there. As far as the vice captaincy, somebody suggested De Silva. Yes, he may have captained the A team before, but he is not as his productivity when it is required for a man of his talent is somewhat lacking. And so Holder is not bringing back Holder. That ship has sailed. And I don't think we should go back to try that again. What we need is to bring someone like Shea Hope. I'm sorry, but I would not be giving because even now Holder is not producing. He's the senior player with the most experience in this team. And yet you look at his performance. You look at how he got out in that first test. He had to survive one ball. And his mindset was not there because of an interruption 2 minutes before. He gets the next delivery, a delivery which all he had to do was stand there and look at it go by. But what did he do? He just pushed the bat out there and drop it in the hand of your short square leg. Holder is not responsible enough. He's not productive enough anymore. His ship has sailed. So Shy Hope is the man for me, and whoever else you may want to choose as vice captain, but not Holder. Back to you.
A very important series is coming up with South Africa. And whatever happens in these tests against England will have a telling effect, because by then we will have a new selection panel and we will see what they think about the present situation with our team. For the final 10 minutes that we have on, with the team performing so poorly, one would ask, with the obvious struggling of Shamar Joseph, another youngster from Guyana is there. He's a developmental player, but nothing stops him from coming into the playing 11 if there is an injury, and clearly there is, and they're holding on, and Shamar Joseph still living in the month of January, and we are in July. Mr. Isaiah, our under 19 fast sensation, with over 8 backroom staff, think tank, and with our team performing so poorly, what says you, Mr. Heath, about what you're seeing with our West Indies team carrying a bunch of guys on holiday in England? Your thoughts on that?
I've said before, I did not see the place where we have 8 coaches and assistant coaches and 1 developmental player. I would have at least had 2 developmental players. There are enough talent in the under 19 squad that we should be encouraging. And certainly you made a very good point, and that is with Shamar Joseph injuries, this might be a very good opportunity to introduce the development player lane. into the squad because he has to start somewhere. And the fact that he's in there as a developmental player, he cannot develop any worse than being budded right there in the middle. If you're not going to use Lane, then I say you need to use Jeremy Louis, because we need another quick bowler there. And Shamar Joseph, unfortunately, is not fit. Whatever the problem is, we don't know, but he needs to have a lot more work done before he can be declared fit. And if he wants to be fit for August and October series coming in the Caribbean, he needs to sit aside now. Lane in the squad is what I say.
Thank you for your thoughts, Mr. Heath. Mr. Melbourne, your response to the large backroom staff that is holidaying in England while our West Indies team is being shamed on the field.
Well, you know, maybe some of them will come back home with TVs and refrigerators, but I see no reason why you have. I mean, you have the coach there. You have Jimmy Adams there as the batting coach. You need a physio, and I guess you need a psychologist. But to have 8 backroom staff, I'm not sure why that is necessary. I couldn't understand initially when the team was selected why Shea Hope and Ruston Chase wasn't in this squad going to England. I don't know that it would have made much of a difference. However, let's face it, they are the experienced players now in the West Indies team, and Shea Hope should be playing all formats of the game. Another one too is Brandon King, but Brandon King I know got hurt during the World Cup, so he probably wasn't available. But certainly, Shea Hope and Ruston Chase should have been in the squad in England.
Agreed.
I also understand there's going to be a new selection policy that has not been revealed yet. So there seemed to be some discussion of changing how West Indies teams are selected, and so we will see where that goes. But you know, right now my focus is on trying to get as close as possible to that 416 runs tomorrow. So,
absolutely, we certainly wish the openers well in that
it's you know, I think, and we keep mentioning Jason Holder. Jason hasn't batted well in a long time, but this could probably be the right occasion for him to come up with a good score. But we'll see.
And his last double century came in England just the other day as well, just before the T20 World Cup. So,
but that double century was a long time ago.
Yeah. But bearing that he's in England and did it there a few months ago,
well, yeah.
We hope that he would be able to do that. Mr. Brown, your final thoughts. I want you to touch on the large backroom staff and the expectation of Michaela Louis tomorrow, the captain himself, and our own countryman in Kirk McKenzie. It's now time for him to deliver, in my view. Your thoughts on that?
Muted, Mr. Dale.
Yes, I apologize. Brathwaite is not an exemplary captain. And when he goes out to the number one, and when he goes out to the crease as an opener, the standard that he sets is one of laying down anchor and not moving. You know, so he's not dominating the bowling in any way whatsoever to encourage a Michael Lewis to do or to follow suit. So Louis, you can't put that responsibility on him to set the tone and set the pace for the rest of the battles. Brathwaite needs to come out of his shell. Do not sit down there.
You're muted.
Still muted, Dale.
And while Dale comes back, I was just checking on Jason Holder. That double was scored at Bridgetown in 2019.
Yeah, but I was referring to the 100 that he got in England.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, so Brathwaite, for example, when Greenwich just came into the team, he had a Roy Fredericks, who was an attacking batsman, to help him and move him along and punish fast bowlers if they tried to take liberties with Greenwich. When Fredericks left, Greenwich was there to usher in Desmond Haynes. And I can remember a game at Jarrett Park in about 76, I think, Shell Shield. Jamaica had a fast bowler named Junior Williams, who roughed up Desmond Haynes, hit him in his shoulder, hit him in his chest. And Greenwich walked down the pitch, spoke to Haynes. Mikey Holden was the other fast bowler. But you know, Mikey was not a hostile guy who was going to cut your throat and tear off your head, by and large. Not that he couldn't do it, but he wasn't that type of bowler. And Greenwich went and took on Junior Williams and with that one-legged hook over square leg and hit him off the back foot through the covers when he pitched short to him, and Maurice Foster was forced to take Junior Williams out of the attack. We don't have that kind of batting in Brathwaite to put the opposing bowlers under manners.
On the back foot, yeah.
Yes, and so now Louis will have to be scratching and clawing his way around. He obviously has good technique. He meets the ball early, but you can't let these English bowlers have you playing forward defensive every ball that you get. Bert McKenzie flatters to deceive. He has not had a good innings in God knows how long, even during the regional tournament. Yet he's rewarded, and I'm not saying he shouldn't be, but you have to look at what do you have around you. Alphanese looks good, but again, takes a long time to make his runs because by the time he comes in, they're under pressure. You know, so you mentioned Mackenzie, Louis, and Brathwaite. Brathwaite, I think, sets the tone, and he doesn't have the personality. He's not the type of batsman. And when I say personality, I'm talking, you know, to be aggressive with you know, facing the bowlers. And one quick word, sir, if you'll permit me 1 extra minute. India had no history of having fast bowlers. And the first thing that they did was they went, I think it was Lester King, who after 1962 they invited to India to take up a contract there. And he went, it didn't work out, but a couple decades later, they enlisted Mr. Dennis Lillee. And Dennis Lillee is the man who ushered in a different mindset about fast bowling in India. And he coached them, not simply because he was a great fast bowler, he was a great student of the game. And they will tell you it's not the physicality of the fast bowler that he taught them. It was the mental preparation that was most important. And I think people get bogged down with this word talent. I want people who are mentally tough. People who, when the going gets tough, they get going. And we don't have those type of persons anymore. So unless we go and employ, and we had the best set of fast bowlers, why aren't they out there teaching our youngsters? Maybe they themselves don't know the mental approach to the game. I don't know.
Yeah, we clearly have Coach Darren Sammy employ James Franklin from New Zealand as the bowling coach. Andre Coley employ Sean Tate from Australia as the bowling coach. And we have
but we're talking about our local fast bowlers here, Junior. And the only local West Indies fast bowler I see doing anything is Kirtley Ambrose, who has been in Guyana a couple of times on
No, that's
some
the
kind of
point.
camp.
What I'm saying is that um, why Ambrose is not there is because um, Adams never gave Chandapal the job. He gave Kohli the job. And how it is that Adams was the man that picked Kohli to be the coach. Now Adams is working for Kohli. These are
Oh,
messed up things in our cricket. He was the
yes.
director. When they wanted a coach, he was the man responsible to pick the coach. Now he was fired from the director role, and then from the from we heard he's in South Africa as the batting coach, and now he's going around as the batting coach. You are the director. You could have coached the West Indies team. Um, and I'm afraid Kohli is not an inspiring coach either. But it is something that we will pick up. And Mr. Nehemiah is saying correct, Mr. Brown, that the team is weak-minded, and I think he's very correct. We want to thank Mr. Nehemiah for being with us today, and we want to thank Hall of Famer John Melbourne and recently nominated Mr. Eat for joining as well, and also the honorary secretary, Mr. Dale Brown. We will be back 10 minutes after the close of play tomorrow to review day 2 of the second test between the West Indies and England there in England, as we continue to give you coverage of the West Indies Test Tour of England 2024. We want to thank the Cricket Hall of Fame, which is a partner with us here at the Development Academy. Want to thank all the viewers that join us this evening under these circumstances that we have here in Jamaica, but somehow we found a way to bring you coverage of this test series between England and the West Indies. It's very, very expensive to do these shows, especially in these extreme difficult times here in Jamaica. We have been through a very difficult and hard hurricane that has ripped up the south of our island. And we thank you for joining nevertheless, though, and we ask you to please do whatever you can do to support us here at West Indies Cricket Development Academy as we look to pick up the pieces. From all of us, the panelists, and all of us here, thank you for joining, and we will be back tomorrow, 10 minutes after the close of play on the second day between the West Indies and England in the second test match. The West Indies win the toss and asked England to bat first. England made 416 with their vice captain Ali Pope making an aggressive 100. Also, Ben Duckett making a very enterprising off century, and also their captain Ben Stokes got in off century as well, and many others of their batters got very good start. Craig Brathwaite leadership was poor. Joshua De Silva missed a few stumping. Jason Holder put down a few catches. West Indies in the entire test match and day to day drop over 4 catches. Drop even Ali Pope before he made an 100. It was a lackluster and bad performances from our West Indies team today. But we will hope that the openers in Craig Brathwaite and Michaela Louis will come out tomorrow and give the Caribbean something to smile about. Panelists, we're inviting you to be back with us tomorrow 10 minutes after the close of play between the West Indies and England, as we will meet again to review day 2 of the second test between West Indies and England. And so that's where we leave it for today. All that join us on the channel today, all the viewers, thank you for joining. Remember to subscribe and remember to watch the ads on this video as it will go towards um, raking in some funds, some much needed funds for our academy. And as you know, these are very difficult time for our country, and especially for those of us down here in Clarendon. Thank you for joining. And